Suntem la ultima seară a primei ediții a American Independent Film Festival și pentru că suntem la un festival de film american, o să trec la limba engleză. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. We are very happy to see that we have a full house. And as you know, we are going to see the last film of great filmmaker, one of the greatest American filmmakers, Sidney Lumet, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. And it's a special occasion because it's the 10th anniversary of the film. And now let me introduce you the special guest from tonight and the special guest of the festival, Mr. Ethan Hawke.
Such an honor to be with you tonight. It's the 10th anniversary of the film. And if Sidney Lumet and Philip Seymour Hoffman could see you guys here today watching this movie, it fills my heart to get to share it. I love this movie, and I'm so happy that you're here.
So now we'll have just a very short introduction because after the screening, as you may know, we'll have a longer Q&A with Mr. Ethan Hawke, and then you can ask questions. I just wanted to ask you as an introduction for this film, how important was this film and this role for you, for your career?
Great, yeah, we'll talk a lot afterwards. One of the best nights of my life is I was doing a play, and the play was Hurly Burly, and it was a play with a lot of friends of mine, and one of my New York theater friends, we started together, we arrived in New York around the same time, and we always came to see each other in shows, and I was a member of his theater company, and our closing night, Philip Seymour Hoffman hadn't been to see it yet, but he came on closing night, and he brought with him Sidney Lumet, right? And funnily enough, my mother was there that night. One of my favorite acting teachers was there that night. It's one of my favorite memories is getting to do this closing night play. But afterwards, Phil introduced me to Sidney and said, Sidney has a script that we want to send you. I said, okay, cool. And it was this movie. And it turned out to be, Sidney's last film. But the miracle that was Philip Seymour Hoffman, what was so special about his heart is this moment in time, he just won the Oscar. And normally what happens when people win the Oscar is they go off and they make, they'll do Batman or they do some giant Marvel movie and they get paid $1 million. And what Phil was, he just won the Oscar. He came to see this the play I was doing is a little off-Broadway play. And he helped Sidney Lumet get his last film made. And because Sidney was our hero, he's an acting god, for the performances from Katharine Hepburn in Long Day's Journey into Night, to Henry Fonda in 12 Angry Men, to Marlon Brando in Fugitive Kind, to Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon, Faye Dunaway in Network. The list is so long. And this is a man, 83 years old, sweating in a hot summer shoot, and telling this story. It's like a young man's movie when you see it. It's so angry. He used to talk to us in rehearsal that you have to look at this like a Greek drama. It's a Greek tragedy. And if you see it with this context of almost going up to the edge of melodrama, just absolute pain and agony and fun, don't worry. So that's all I'll say about it. And then after the movie, we can talk about anything anybody wants to talk about. But, I dedicate this tonight to Philip and to Sidney and to you guys, So thank you.
She's what, 60, 70?
Don't touch anything, don't say anything.
Is blindness bad? Look at me. Blindness bad.
Easiest money well we get.
It's Mom and Dad's story.
We'll start with a couple of questions. And I have a question that I cannot avoid. And I would like you to tell us a little bit about your friend and colleague. How was he as as a person, as an actor, Philip Seymour Hoffman?
Well, it's an amazing thing to watch this movie now. For people who don't know, Philip overdosed. I had a drug overdose a few years ago and passed away. To watch this movie now, in the light of that, to watch him play this character with a drug problem and see him give that speech about how the figures of his life don't add up to one me. You know, found myself incredibly moved by that speech. I remember in the rehearsal room, he would speak very openly about some of his issues in life, and I remember another actor saying, "Can't believe how honest you are." You know? And Philip said that we're trying to make a movie, and that when you're in your life, sometimes it makes sense that you might lie. You know, you might say that a meal was good when a meal wasn't good, or you might say that the day was nice when it wasn't, or that somebody's hat was nice. Or for whatever reason, you might lie to your husband, or you might lie to your mother. You'd have your reasons. But in art, there can be no lies. You know, that we have to tell the truth in front of the camera, whatever that, however you define that truth for any given project, and that art is a sacred space, you know. And Phil did a lot of work in the theater, and one of the things about the theater that's so interesting is, you know, it's kind of a superstition about the proscenium. You're not supposed to. I just crossed the proscenium, right? I walked across it, and it's bad luck. But this is a movie theater, not a regular theater, and I'm not acting tonight, so it's not a problem. But the idea of that luck is that you don't break the proscenium because you are saying to yourself and to everyone that what happens up here is poetry, that this is not normal. This is an elevated place. This screen, you know, when the camera rolls, it's an elevated place. It's a place that someday somebody will watch it when you're dead, like tonight. And then you need to tell the truth, or we're wasting everyone's time, and you'd waste your money. I remember when the movie had come out, we did, hi, you gonna film me the whole time? I'm not gonna be that interesting. Somehow you're making me more nervous than anybody else. I don't know, but I'll continue talking. The movie came out, and we, you know, for a DVD, sometimes they do a commentary. So Philip, myself, and Sydney came in, and we watched the movie together, and we spoke about it, and I spoke about our experience, and that was the last time I saw Sidney Lumet. You know, he was really a master. You know, he was so exciting to talk to about the history of movies. He'd come in very early, television, live TV, directing it. I mean, he worked with, you know, Eugene O'Neill, Tennessee Williams, and I mean, you know, Patty Chayefsky. I mean, this is like, he's been a part of the collective consciousness in such a vibrant way, and he's a very, very humble man, without any pretense. And Philip loved him, you know, and we walked home. We both lived near the same, so we were walking home together through the city, and we were both talking about what a magical experience that was because when you're being directed by somebody, you're just working together. And you don't really try to think about how great somebody is, or you're trying to do your job, and you know. And sometimes Philip would find Sydney frustrating, and sometimes I would find something frustrating, or Philip would be upset with me, but we were walking home, and he said, "Wow, I learned so much just from that commentary. So I had no idea how deliberate every shot was, and how much thought went into the way Sydney cut this movie, and so inspiring. We were just waxing poetic about what an amazing experience it was and how it might be his last film. And I said to him what I said to you tonight about, I said, Philip, this movie, you didn't win the Oscar. He said he wanted to make this movie for a little while, and script had been kicking around. And Philip had the heat of, movie financiers at that moment, and he brought Sydney to me, and, we did this thing, and I said to him on the street that day, I said, this wouldn't have happened without you. And I said, I just want to say, this is such a great thing you do, to help an old master at this stage in his life. And Phil's eyes filled up with tears, and he just said, thanks for noticing. Yeah, thanks. And he walked away. He's a very powerful person, I used to play a game with myself when I would do a play, because he always came. Whatever I would do, he would come, and I really respected his acting. I'll tell you a couple of fun stories about acting with him, but I would play this game with myself. Whenever I do a play and you get tired, you're worried. It's a Wednesday matinee, and you stayed up too late on Tuesday night, and the whole audience is going to be full of people from New Jersey or something. We look down on people from New Jersey. And I would play a trick with myself where I was like, oh, wait, is today the day Phil told me he's coming? So, I think Phil's coming today. And then I would warm up, and I would just tell myself that Phil was coming. One day I'd be right. But, and I say that only to tell you how much I respected him. There's a funny scene in the movie. Finally, Hank and Andy, where he comes to my apartment, and it's a long wide shot, and Phil's sitting on one side of the frame, and I'm sitting on the other. We're like this, and we're talking to one of us stands up, and the other one stands up. Well, it's about a 3-page scene, and one of the fascinating things about working with Sidney Lumet is that he loved to rehearse, but sometimes he'd only do one take. And it would drive Philip crazy because everything had to, Sidney loved making it really important that we were doing this. He's not going to do a million takes. Give it to me. What do you got? And he had, he would have he loved to do this thing where he had 3 cameras, and there'd be a wide shot, and a single of me, and a single Phil, and we're gonna hunt for the truth, do the scene, and move on. And so sometimes Philip and I would come to set, and the shot would all be set up. It'd be 7 o'clock in the morning. You're used to getting your coffee, and you go to hair and makeup. Sydney hated hair and makeup. Sydney get them here. Are they here? Yeah. Get them in costume. Let's shoot. And so Phil and I roll in, and we start doing the scene. And let's say, for example, my line was, pass me the popcorn, will ya? Right? Let's say that was my line. So I said, see you guys. I said, pass me the popcorn. And there's this really long pause, and all of a sudden from behind the camera, you hear Sidney go, whose line is it? Whose line is it? And I said, it's Phil's line. Phil goes, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it is. You said the incorrect line. I'm waiting for my cue. The line is, pass the popcorn, will ya? I have an idea of what I want to do when you give me this line, and I can't do it because you didn't give me my cue. And I'm like, all right, man, relax. He goes, well, I might not get another take, so if you don't do it the way I want you to do it, it's never going to get done. And I said, pass me the popcorn, will you? And he goes, he just launched down my throat. That's when he stood up, and he had this idea that that's what he was going to do. He was incredibly honest, very tough, dude, very tough. He didn't suffer fools gladly, and he cared a lot about acting, a lot.
Thank you for your answer. My second question was about Sidney Lumet. How did you work with him? You just said something. Maybe you can.
All right, I got one funny Sydney story.
Yeah.
Can I tell you one?
Of course.
Every day, I would come to work, and Sydney knew that Phil and I were friends, right? And I would come to work, and Sydney would go, "You should have seen Daly's, you know, the yesterday's footage, right? Saw Daly's last night. Wow, Philip is amazing." God, I mean, you know what? Not since Marlon have I worked with anybody that intense, that powerful. You never know what he's gonna do. He's so alive, so alive. Oh, you must be, you know, feel grateful you get to work with him. And I go, yeah. You know, sure, yeah, he's good. She said, and then, you know, 3 days later, you go, "Hey, Sydney, how you doing?" "Good. Saw Daly's last night." How does he do it? So we do our last scene. One of our last scenes that we shot was one of Phillips and I when we're in his office talking. So we finished a really long day, and we're really tired. He calls a wrap, and everybody's, you know, hugging each other and doing the things that they do, and the movie's over, and we're walking out, and I said to Phil, I said, "You know, I gotta tell you, I had a good time making this movie, but I'm really glad it's over." And he goes, "Yeah, why?" I said, "Because if I gotta hear how great you are one more time from that old geezer, I'm gonna wring my neck." "He says that to you?" "Not since Marlon Brando." He was doing the same thing to Phil. He goes, "Not since Marlon Brando have I seen." He was just winding us up against each other, you know. And we immediately turned back around. We walked in and said, he's about this tall, you know. And we said, "Hey, you know what? You've been playing us." And he just said, so great.
I have one more question, and after that, I will pass the microphone to the audience. How do you usually like to work with a director? How do you see this relationship?
You have to meet a director on their ground. That's what I really believe. If you have one way of working, you're disqualifying all the ways in which cinema is so different. You know, working with Richard Linklater on Boyhood is entirely different than working on this project. Sidney is an old school film director. Richard, in a way, could be working in any medium. He loves cinema, but he really likes people and time and life, and he thinks about it. He just wants to communicate, you know. And, you know, Alfonso Cuarón works entirely different than him. I mean, it's like a different set. I mean, it's a different job almost. And the trick is to meet a director and see what kind of art they want to make. It's a little bit like being in a band, you know, and as an actor, you play bass, that's your thing. But some lead singers want to, you know, sing rock and roll, and some want to sing old hymns, and you can't come in with the same. You can prepare yourself like an athlete, meaning that you can be in shape to do a lot of different things. But if you have one way of working, because there's no right way. There's just no right way at all. I've been with people that I thought were complete morons who made a really good movie, and I was wrong. You know, and I've been on, you know, some jobs with some really talented people, and we got lost. You know, really lost. We didn't make anything worth watching. So I really like to. Brando has my favorite quote about it, which is you have to spiritually marry your director, you know, and you just have to try to psychologically, because they're going to edit it, they're shooting it, they're finding the angle. You have to somehow find what they're doing and make it better. You know, it's like being a good first mate, you know. If you try to steer the ship behind their back, or try to think that you know, you have to figure out, you have to protect them when they might be going the wrong direction or something. But really, you have to move with them. If you move with them, you know, here's a funny story about talking about moving with. You know the scene where we walk in to Philip's drug dealer? Anyway, you know, Philip punches him, shoots him. We walk in, all them big guys in the bed, and he shoots him, and he does the thing, and then he's, you know, says, you know, we start talking to me, are you good, are you good, and, you know, all that stuff, and we're shouting at each other. And, well, this is not a joke. It's Friday morning. It's like 5:30 call. We get there, we go to our makeup at 6:30, we walk to the thing. Sydney walks us in, he says, look here, there's this guy, and we're gonna do these blood packs, and we've got this, and I really, I have 5 cameras set up today. Because he was really excited about digital video. He'd never made them, he was amazed at how cheap the cameras were, and how cheap you know, this shit's so cheap, you know? And he was a very frugal man. And he said, here's what we're gonna do. I want this to be real. I want it to feel real. I want it to feel scary. And I'm gonna set up these cameras, and we're gonna do the whole thing as one. You know, I mean, I've got different shots, this over here, and a wide shot here, and Sidney doesn't really, you know, often if you watch the movie, the angles aren't great. He's not obsessed with the way a lot of film directors are like, ooh, the light is so nice. I just think, nobody pays to see light. Pay to see truth, human beings. That's what I want to see. You know, anybody can sell beer. We're not going to do that. I got these 5 cameras. You guys can walk through. So you're going to shoot this guy here. Make sure to turn the gun so the camera doesn't see it. And Phil said, whoa, so we're going to do the blood packs and everything? Like, you know, you sure you're not going to do this in cuts? Nah. It'll get you going. It's going to be really exciting. Well, let me practice putting, no, don't practice putting the cocaine in the bag. Don't practice anything. And you're going to shoot this guy, and Phil's like, but I'm supposed to do it through the pillow? Yeah, it'll make it quiet. What if it catches on fire? Well, I don't think it will. Okay. All right, so it's now, you know, like 7:14, right? And we do this thing, and Philip like punches the guy, and shoots him, the swing goes off, and we go in there, and you know, it's doing it, and we start yelling at each other, and we get the lines all wrong. You know, I mean, just the lines are just totally out the window. Phil's just yelling at me, and I'm yelling back. And Sidney goes, cut. It's just like silence. Sometimes it's just magic. That's a wrap, everybody. That's a wrap. It was 7:24. And the whole crew was like, yeah! Love this director! You know, and they all start packing up. And you gotta understand, Phil's just really seasoned. Phil's like, Sidney, this is a very important scene, and I can do better. I don't think you can, Phil. I don't think you can. That was great. The way you should have seen it. Sidney, I can do better. Phil, when you suck, I'll cut to Ethan. Okay? It's like, Sid. And Phil's like, Sidney, it's 7:30. There's no reason that we can't do it again. I didn't get any of my lines right. Sidney goes, all right, I see your point. Why don't we do this? You go tell all the crew that you want one more take, and I'm gonna go home. Okay? That's a wrap. And he's gone. And Phil turns to me and goes, he is that sometimes I feel like there's another company on the other side of town making the same movie, and we're racing to beat them. And the thing is that you can't make Sydney work your way. You know, this is just because it's digital video. You guys might get a kick out of this story. Phil and I were so excited to work with Sydney. We put so much energy into this. And we're so excited. We found out he's shooting a digital video, and we were so upset. It was 2007, and we said, Sydney, can we talk to you one day in rehearsal? And we said, with complete faith, and everything, we'd love to discuss this idea about digital video. I think it's a mistake. We're like holding each other's hands. We think it's a mistake, Sydney, that the budget can handle. We could shoot this on film. Said, why would you want to shoot it on film? This is my theory. I said, well, a great film hasn't been made on digital video yet. Just everybody's talking about it, but it's never as great as film. He goes, somebody will, though, Somebody will. And I said, he goes, it's the future. He's an 83-year-old guy. I'm 34 or something like that. It's the future. And I said, well, but, I want to. And Phil goes, you know what it is? It's the truth is we want it to, it's the way Dog Day Afternoon looks, the way Serpico looks. And I said, oh, you want the movie to have that vintage look. And we're like, yeah, that vintage, cool, the vintage 70s look. You know what? I made that film as cheaply as possible. That's how I made that film. Because if you make people money, you get to make more movies. And the cheapest way to make this movie is on digital video. And if you want it to look vintage, wait 20 years and it will. I promise. And here we are, 10 years later, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it looks kind of retro and cool. It's got this kind of vintage quality. And, it looks great.
So, raise your hand. You can ask questions in English or in Romanian if you like.
I'm fluent in Romanian. I understand. I'm going to pretend like I'm not to make other Americans feel better.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. My name is Alex. I have a question. It's been 5 years, so you probably have an idea by now if you're going to do another installment of the Before series. And I was wondering what the answer to this question is.
So he's talking about, I made these movies before sunrise, before sunset, and before midnight. And they each have 9-year intervals. And you're right, what happened was after the first one, we did this animated movie with Richard Linklater, Waking Life, Julie and I. And we just shot it was just one scene, but Rick called us and he said, I'm doing this movie about dreams, and would you guys come together and write a scene with me? And I just wanted to be I want Before Sunrise to be kind of a part of this. And we went into the scene in Waking Life, and it was 5 years after Before Sunrise. And we had the most amazing time together, just like we'd had in Vienna. And we walked away from this 2-day shoot going, God, we gotta make another movie. And that started Sunset. So then when we finished Before Sunset, we made a deal with ourselves that 5 years later, we would meet and decide if we wanted to do a third. And we met at my house, and we had dinner, and it was fascinating. We all had an idea for a third movie, and it was the exact same idea. It was just so clear that we were meant to do that. And now we are passing the 5-year mark. And it's strange because there is a feeling about those 3 movies to me. The first movie, Before Sunrise, starts with this couple in their 40s fighting, and the camera drifts by them, and you find these young people. And then at the end of Before Midnight, we are a couple in our 40s traveling, and we've become those characters in the train. And then we never planned to make 3 of them, and that happened so effortlessly that my feeling is that Before trilogy is actually complete, and that That's my feeling, which isn't to say that I wouldn't make another movie with Richard and Julie and revisit those characters in some way. But I think that whatever that thing was, you know, we might do the After series some other day or something. I don't know. There's such wonderful people, and the collaboration was brilliant for me. It was a brilliant experience, one of the highlights of my life. But it's so dear to us that the idea of making one and having it not be right, you know, it's so dear to us that we really just, something has to happen. The universe has to dictate it in some strange way. That's how I feel about it. I know that was kind of a nothing answer, but it's the truth.
I've seen many of cinema movies, and I've always thought that some of them are very much socially involved, and some of them are really kind of political statements. And at the end of his career, he comes with this Shakespearean tragedy, using one of his favorite actors, Albert Finney, who made a wonderful role here and also in the network. I'm fascinated about him. Do you think that somehow cinema felt that this could be a kind of last will of his whole creation for his entire life?
He was not a sentimental man. You know, he would never think like that. He was a much more practical person than that. He wasn't given to, this is my summation. I felt the way that he edited this and told the story, almost like a shattered piece of glass, and you were putting the mosaic back together, you know, was so young. You know, it was such a, he wasn't, so many people who get successful kind of stay stuck in the time period where their fame happened to them, where they try to repeat their success. And he just loved storytelling, any kind of storytelling. I got to do Q&As with him and stuff like that, and people would ask him if he liked Godard films or something. He really didn't. He didn't like any time you noticed the director. You know, pretty much that was his thing. It annoyed him when the director made it about him. He felt it was in the way of the characters, and that his interest in cinema was in the characters. In that he would talk about, like Scorsese, for example, in Goodfellas, is the perfect use. I mean, he would, when Scorsese was flashy or dynamic, it was in service of the emotional life of the movie. The movie needed to be dynamic at that moment. He turned Raging Bull's boxing into poetry because you needed to understand what it meant to the man and to feel it. But it was never, you were never aware of him directing. Sidney loves that, you know? And so I think what he really liked was making an unsentimental, tough movie at the end of his life. And he really, he loved this Greek element of this movie. I mean, he kept saying that the stakes are preposterously high. Try playing a scene. Okay, you just shot your mom. You didn't mean to, and you're worried your dad's gonna find out. I mean, the stakes are so ridiculous, you know? But he just fought and loved it. He loved this, he found it a very old-fashioned movie in that way. And so, I don't know, he's a very humble guy. So he wouldn't think it would be important. I wanted him to get more attention for this movie when it happened. You know, he'd won 10 years before the Lifetime Achievement Oscar, but he never actually won an Oscar for directing a movie, you know? And I always feel like, you know, if this had been directed by some 28-year-old guy out of film school, he'd be blown away. But at that time, they were kind of taking Sidney a little for granted. Oh, look at the old guy doing fine, doing what he does, making great movies, who cares?
Some other, yeah, we have there in the second row.
You have a mic there?
Oh, you have a mic here? Okay.
Ethan, my name is Daniel.
Hello.
I know that 16 years ago you were co-founder of an annual prize, Young Lions Fiction Award for accomplishments for fiction writings. What's your motivation for that? For founding that award? And I have another question, but first, if you may.
Okay. Well, he's talking about this. The New York Public Library has a fiction award that I started with some other people to try to help young writers. They give grants, and most importantly, I think it gives some acclaim to writers at the beginning of their career. And the motivation for doing that is entirely how luxurious people have been with me, supporting me throughout my life. And I know that it's been a much harder road to toe for a lot of young people, and I really liked. It's very difficult to make a living as a fiction writer in this climate. Everybody kind of gets sucked into writing for magazines or TV or just things that are slightly aspire for less, slightly more disposable, and anything that could give young writers a pat on the back and an encouragement, and give readers, a lot of readers don't know what to read, and if you want to read a young person's writing, you don't know where to start, and you don't want to waste, we all have very little time to wait, you don't want to read a bad book, it's terrible. So, the idea of the award. What's part 2 of your question?
How was like being Rihanna's pimp?
How is it being Rihanna's pimp? Yeah. For those who don't know, I played Rihanna's pimp in this Luc Besson film, and here's the funny thing is I got a call from Luc Besson. It was like a little bit before Christmas, and my agent said, "Hey, Luc Besson wants to call you. Is that okay? Can I give him your number?" I'm like, "Of course." So my phone rings, and it's Luc Besson, and he says, "Hey, I wrote a part for Dennis Hopper, and Dennis Hopper died. So can you come to Paris and play Dennis Hopper?" I'm like, "Sure. What do I have to do?" He goes, "You're a pimp. You're going to be Rihanna's pimp." And to be honest, I just wish my part was bigger because it was really fun to play Dennis Hopper as Rihanna's pimp.
Okay, sorry. I think we have.
I think she was asking.
I would like to hear your opinion about Romanian cinematography, and if there are any Romanian films you like and maybe Romanian actors you appreciate.
Well, we have a Romanian director here right now. Yes, we have Christian. Is one of the best filmmakers working in the world, and we're not saying that to flatter him. We're saying it because it's the truth. And for those of us in America, for me, what his work and his contemporary's work that I know less well, it's very important because in America, big business is eating the art form of cinema whole. People love to watch movies, and so you can make a lot of money off people's desires to watch movies. And so then people who are really interested in making money are highly motivated to create things that they think will sell. And of course, it makes perfect sense. The problem is the art form is being eaten by business. I mean, it's just being completely usurped. And when you see Christian's work, you are watching, like you remember, like, oh, right, this doesn't have to be a TV show. This doesn't have to be selling something. It's not something to go in between ads. This is an opportunity for us to talk to each other and share our moment that we're alive on this planet right now. And how is this moment different than the ones that came before us, or the ones that are going to be next? And I mean, not only giving us insight, I mean, when I first saw, I don't know the Romanian title, but when I first saw 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days, like, it was, like having cold water splashed all over you, wakes you up. And I also do love how whatever language things are spoken in, there is this language of what movies are. And it's slightly different, and it's always the same. What makes a great shot? And how does this Romanian person that I've never known, that has these amazing different experiences that I don't know anything about, like a shot that I would love? That's an amazing shot. Like, it it somehow lets you know that we're all so similar, and that we love to focus on our, oh, we're so different, this is this way of thinking, this is that way of thinking, and our experiences just aren't as unique as we think, and we have so much in common, and so much to share, and so much mutual understanding. So, you know, that's really why I'm here, is to be a part of this festival. I'm grateful to Christian for trying to turn on, continuing a tradition of successful filmmakers supporting other filmmakers, and supporting audiences' understanding of what the art form is. Because otherwise, all anybody's going to do is watch the stuff we're programmed to watch. We get inundated with advertising. I have to watch Spider-Man or I will die. What will I be thinking about? Even though I know it's going to be the same movie that I saw last week, you know. And or maybe Spider-Man's great. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? But it's a tradition of turning people on to cinema and its possibilities, and it's vital for the future of filmmaking. So, Christian, are you there? Are you there? You're there. So thank you. Let's go.
Yeah. Hello, Ethan. It's an honor to have you here in Bucharest. One of the first things that you talked about after the movie ended was how that scene with Mr. Philip Seymour was shining in a different light for you after everything that happened and after 10 years. So basically my question is, was there any other scene where you saw yourself in a totally different light after 10 years of life experience that like touched you, that was basically very personally there? I mean, I think you get my question, right?
I think so. It's hard for me to compete with death, you know? I mean, Sydney and Phil are gone, you know, so I see the movie, it completely eclipses any of my feelings, you know? It's a funny thing about acting, is I look at the movie and I remember that summer, and I remember my kids when they came to visit the set and where we were, and, you know, so it's a different experience. And one of the things I enjoy about watching a movie 10 years later is my chances of seeing the film. You know, when it first comes out, I'm so worried about whether people are gonna like it, I'm worried about my next job, I'm worried about, you know, I can't really, I'm worried that why didn't they pick a different take? Oh my God, why did he cut that scene? Now I don't even remember what scenes were cut, you know? And so it's, I really just enjoy, so grateful to be, you know, we mentioned Albert Finney, who's in the movie. It's just a card-carrying, one of the just most wonderful actors of all time, and one of the most wonderful people to be around. And Marissa Tomei, it was kind of funny. For Philip started Labyrinth Theater Company, and Marissa started the Naked Angels, and I had started this company Malapart all in the early 90s. You know, we were working together 15 years later in the movie, but we were growing up together, you know, falling in love with acting, and here we were getting to work with the person who worked with our heroes. Yeah, and so I don't know that, you know, for me personally, there are things that are tucked away and sewn into the fabric of boyhood, or even Born to Be Blue, that are deeply personal to me. And this, for me, was my work as a movie actor. You know, I really trying to find a character. It's fascinating. I remember my character is so beta. You know, do you have that expression, the alpha dog and the beta, and he's so beta? And I remember we were rehearsing, and we were, you know, making coffee or whatever. And I said to Phil, I said, God, I just can't find this guy's voice. I can't find, what does he talk like? How does he walk? I don't know this character. I don't know who he is. And Phil says, can I tell you what your problem is? Yeah. He goes, Hank is beta, and you keep trying to be alpha, and I'm alpha. get it. And it really helped me. It really helped me. I didn't answer your question, but I tried.
Hello?
Sorry, where are they?
Here. So first of all, thank you, Mr. Hawke, for joining us tonight. And for a more or less personal question, I was curious, what was the worst role that you ever took? Something that you absolutely didn't like, a character, a movie, something, a horrible experience on set.
You know, one of the things about all these telephones that makes life hard is speaking freely. It used to be a time when I could do a Q&A like this in Bucharest, and I could say whatever crap I wanted to about some asshole I worked with 5 years ago, right? But now it'll be all over Facebook, and then the person will have hurt feelings, and it's such a drag, you know? Because I would never be interested in, it's very hard to talk about when you fail and things that didn't work out without, even if you do it the most gracefully, without attaching some blame to it, you know? Basically, I advise you to do this. Google my name, look at my filmography, pick the 10 you like the least, and know in your heart that all those people are fucking assholes and ruined my work, okay? Because it would have been great if they had done their job.
But I have a question that can help you in this situation. What do you think were the turning points of your career then?
Well, obviously Dead Poets Society. You know, Dead Poets Society started everything. It changed my life, you know. Meeting Richard Linklater, you know, Before Sunrise, that changed my life. That summer in Vienna with Julie and Rick changed me. I started writing. You know, I wrote The Hottest Date shortly after that. I'd never met anybody. You know, most people, we all have such fear of being made fun of, or that we're not good enough, and Richard really encouraged Julie and I to write Before Sunrise. He's really like, write scenes, right? Here's a computer, you know? And I was fascinating. And when it was over, he said to me, you know, we're kind of peers. He's a little older, but, you know, we're peers. And I never met a peer who was so fully realized. I mean, he was an artist, ready to work. He wasn't in training. You know, he wasn't promising. He was going to do his life's work today. And he was ready. And it was exciting to be around him. And he's like, you're a great writer, man. I was like, yeah, thanks, you know. And he's like, he didn't subscribe to the idea that any of us have to diminish ourselves to make other people more comfortable, you know? It's like, yeah, because I had written this, I gave him some chapters of this book, and I was like, I wish I could publish it or something. He's like, why can't you? So I'm a movie actor, but make fun of me. He goes, well, they'd be assholes. I'm like, yeah, but they'll still make fun of me. And he goes, yeah, but who cares? Someday you'll be dead. You know? I mean, who cares? He's like, because you learn so much if you do it, you know? I mean, if you do it, if you go through the process of working with an editor, and like, that'd be scary, publishing a book. You should do that, man. I was like, yeah, that'd be scary. But he looks at life very simply, and it was a wonderful turning point. Training Day was a turning point for me because it was like success in a mainstream Hollywood movie with a world-class card-carrying icon. You know what I mean? I think Denzel Washington is one of the greatest actors of our time. You know, just one of the greatest movie actors ever. And to get to be in the ring with, you know, somebody who is at the top of a profession on the planet, you know, and you know, he's done it, you know, he's done it with racism at his heels in our country is very huge. I'll never forget the NAACP, which is a leading, wonderful African-American organization, coming to him on the set and being really worried about him playing a bad guy, because he was such a role model. And he got so upset. Al Pacino's an artist. Gene Hackman, I'm a role model by being a great actor. I'm not a role model by acting like Dudley Do-Right, And I watched this in the periphery and I thought, even in success, it's harder. He's carrying an added weight, and he's carried it for 30 years. And it was inspiring to watch how little pressure he ever felt. Pressure just disappeared. And it's awesome to be in there.
It was your first Oscar nomination then.
Mm-hmm. That was cool too. And so that was a big deal. And then some of the other turning points happened on stage. But I would say that the combination, Training Day was kind of, I became an adult actor after that. And then the last movie I did that hasn't come out, it's a really scary, strange thing about the life of an actor because you're forced to face all of life's phases head on. When I was in Dead Poets Society, I'm doing my first kiss and doing my first this and, getting my first pimple and, but I'm a young person and I played my first grandfather the other day. And it was really bizarre. I was doing this scene where my daughter had a baby, and it's I'm not old enough for this. And technically, I am. Damn, wow. But it forces you to see everything. I still pick up a script sometimes, and it'll say John, 19, skateboards down the block, and I think, okay, yeah, that's me. And I read it right, and John walks in and says his dad. Late 40s, rugged, handsome, oh, fuck, that's me. And then pretty soon you're Albert Finney, and he used to joke about that, it has the potential to be enlightening, because some people, my dad might say, I woke up when I was 60, because he had the same job. And life falls into its little rhythms and its little habits. And acting really prevents that. It's always forcing you to change and stare at where you are as a person. That it can be a great teacher that way. I know you guys must be getting tired. I really don't want to be that person. We'll do a couple more,
Okay, just a couple. Okay, one.
Hello. Hi, I'm Matthew.
Where are we?
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations for your career. Amazing. You're still young.
Thank you, man.
You have more ahead. Okay, so I'm a future film director. I'm currently a student of film, and I think the most relevant question for you is, can you tell me something about a preparation for a movie and what steps do you make for preparing for a role? And something about the relationship with the director.
Well, preparing for a role, it's always, some are really close to you. Preparation for a role with the is all about rehearsal and writing and rhythms. I mean, it's all about a shared expression. It's just completely different than preparation for a role with Training Day, where you're doing ride-arounds with police officers. One of the most important things when you get in front of the camera is to believe yourself. That's what, when you hear Daniel Day-Lewis didn't take off his Abraham Lincoln hat for 4 years or whatever. The reason is because he wants to believe himself. There's something about getting on stage. We all have you give a speech at your friend's wedding or something, and no sooner do you stand up in front of your fellow man than you somehow feel ashamed of yourself. You're worried your fly's down. You're worried you have something in your mouth. These are the enemy of the actor. right? This self-consciousness. And it's very natural and it happens all the time. But I remember one of the hardest things that ever happened to me with a character is I had to play a character who had to kill himself. And that I had to look out in the play, I had to do this speech where I spoke and I confessed to the audience that I wanted to put a bullet through the back of my brain. And that's all I could think about. And I'd do this monologue and I had to look at people like this and say it. And I could hear Phil's voice in the back of my head saying, "I don't believe you." You know, it's a thing, a good acting coach says that, you know. "I don't believe you. What do you mean? What are you playing? What are you thinking?" Because every time you're activated and you want something, the camera loves that. What is she doing? It's like, you know, when you see a dog on a film set or something, the dog doesn't know it's acting, right? So you watch the dog. What's it doing? It can't possibly know it's supposed to be saving the Russian mistress or whatever the dog is doing. And so trying to cultivate that, where I confuse myself with the dog metaphor. What the hell are we talking about? Preparing for a role and believing yourself. And so that's the kind of thing Phil would say, you know, "I don't believe you, I don't believe you, I don't believe you." So it's like, you know, you have to walk yourself through, well, what would it really mean to want to take your own life? What would it have to be to do that? And you really start, it's like a form of meditation in a way. And I would walk and I would read Sylvia Plath and I would read different other writers, you know, just kind of trying to get into the mindset. And before I knew it, I was suicidal. You know, and I was doing the monologue great. And I remember I read a review of it. It's like, "Ethan Hawke is very good in this show. I am worried about him. He doesn't seem well." And you know, I frankly wasn't well. You know, and learning how to let those feelings pass through you is part of the job. You know, the great actors, you know, they pass through you like they can in life. You know, just because you're feeling angry doesn't mean anger has to consume you. You know, you can let these things, just because you're feeling jealous doesn't mean you have to behave jealous. You can let it move through you. You know, just because I think she's beautiful doesn't mean I have to run up to her and, you know, well, you know what I mean. You know, when you let these feelings, we're alive, right? And this stuff is happening to us all the time. And so preparation for a role is very mysterious. Because sometimes to believe yourself, you have got to believe that you know how to arrest someone. I'm an actor. I've grown up with artists my whole life. I didn't believe myself. So I had to do ride-arounds. I went and ride around with the cops. And they let me throw somebody in the back of a wagon. It's scary, man. Throwing cuffs when somebody's on drugs. It's really scary. But you get in front of that camera and you know how to do it. And you believe yourself. That's the important thing. It's because if you don't believe it, the camera smells it. So they just smell it. So
one more question.
One more question. Does somebody have a good last question? No pressure.
Hi. Oh, I'm so nervous. I mean, my voice sounds like crap right now.
No, you sound great. Are you kidding?
Okay, and I'm a bit shaking, but maybe that's from air conditioning. Never mind. I'm just so honored to be with you in this room right now. I mean, you're great. I'm so fascinated to watch you, and you're just a truly great.
That's what I tell myself every morning.
Yeah.
So we go.
You're a great model. I mean, you're super important for me, and I'm just so honored to be with you here. So, my question
The feeling is mutual.
Perfect. Have you ever lost your hope in your journey of becoming an actor? And the second one, have you ever wanted to become something else, like a pilot? I don't know.
Pilot sounds cool.
I don't know. My dad wanted to become a pilot too.
Well, have I ever lost my hope? Not for long, but I've certainly lost it. It's depressing when things don't go the way you want them to. It's depressing to do bad work. It's depressing. sometimes the world is depressing. You know, that what gets celebrated and what doesn't get celebrated. And there's a kind of general haze of, it's so hard for people love to hero worship other people, you know, like you being really kind to me and everything. And let's say that what you said is true. What I hope it means to you, right, is I've always, one of the things why I like acting for Richard Linklater, for example. I remember my daughter's here tonight, and she said, we walked out of, you know, I think he said it after Harry Potter and Avatar, but I don't know. Harry Potter. We finally saw the last Harry Potter. We just love these movies. You know, we just watched them all, and they were all amazing. And, you know, the 8th one, 7 part 2 ended or whatever. And my daughter said, you know, I love those movies, but it makes me so disappointed in my real life. Like, I'm never going to go to Hogwarts, and I'm never going to be a wizard, and I'm never going to... And one of the things that I love about working for Richard Linklater is he makes movies that make you feel good about being you. You know, that our life... I had this amazing experience. This Boyhood, when it came out, had such a success that they kicked out... Planet of the Apes got kicked out of this big theater, and they put in Boyhood in Los Angeles. And we did this Q&A, and it was sold out. And we did this, it was just like this, the people here, and this woman stood up and asked this question, you know, she said, I really wanted, there's a scene in the movie where I skip a rock, and it skips like 17 times. It's a really good stone throw. And she says, how did you do it? And I remember thinking, this is why I love working with Richard. Because last night, people were yawning their way when apes were blowing up helicopters. And now this night is, how'd you skip that stone? You know? And it's like, the simple things of life are beautiful. And what depresses me sometimes is, you know, why we all know that as a collective humanity, nothing matters more than ourselves protecting the environment. Like, it's so important. And it's so important that we respect other people's religions and we respect other individuals. And you see sometimes the worst people being promoted and making money and having control over people that don't. And you see good people being sick and bad things. You know, that kind of thing makes a person despondent. And then somebody who's a better actor than me winning lots of awards, that makes me depressed too. That's a joke. But you know what I mean? I mean, there's a real crisis happening in the world. You know, there's a real, there's things to which to be concerned about. Saber rattling, all this stuff. I feel like we're supposed to be evolving out of this. And one of the reasons why I like being a part of art is I think that it's ultimately, at its best, it's about this dialogue that we all share in our heads. These stories that we tell, you know? And it's how we communicate across cultures, older people learning about younger people learning about older people. It's a really, and that's what I've dedicated my life to, you know. But so that was hope. And what was the other thing you asked me?
If you wanted to do something else, or
not really. I'd be lying. I really don't care about whether it's acting, writing, directing, producing. Being a part of this tonight, this thing of shared time together, is what I live my life for, and I don't want to do anything else.